What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? It's Scott here from FudgeMuppet, bringing you an incredibly crazy and highly requested Fallout 4 build called the Pyromaniac. This build is extremely psycho, and I must say this is definitely one of the most evil characters that you can create in Fallout 4. If you're enjoying Fallout 4 and these Fallout 4 builds, remember to click the subscribe button so you don't miss out on any of the awesome builds we've got coming. If you don't subscribe, Michael won't have enough feta cheese to feed his family, so it's pretty damn important. We've also got Snapchat, so check the description. But anyways, now it's time to fulfill your Hannibal Lecter fantasies. The Pyromaniac is all about drugs, fire, and food. And by food, I mean the searing corpse you've just toasted with your flamer. This build is a cannibal, but definitely consumes chems as often as flesh. This build won't be using power armor, but if you absolutely have to, you can. This Pyromaniac is very powerful in combat and is definitely fun to play if you're sick of being super nice to everyone in the wasteland. This build levels pretty fast too, which is always nice, and the reason for this is of course the high intelligence. We found a psychotic build who is actually really smart and technologically savvy to make a truly fascinating character. This build can play like a slick, sword-wielding boss straight out of the Matrix, but also has the awesome, gnarly feel of an evil heavy weapons raider character. In the description box below, you will find timestamp links to help you navigate your way through certain sections of the video in case you need to remember information. You can also skip sections like the backstory too, just in case you're worried about certain spoilers or backstories just aren't for you. Growing up in Boston, the Pyromaniac had a fairly twisted and unlucky childhood. She was always a bit of a misbehaving child, but was never anything of major concern until the age of 6. It was at this time in her life when she lost her parents, becoming an orphan and being forced to find a foster family. Her family had died in a house fire, and it was a miracle that the young girl had actually survived. Her face was scarred from this, but the impact was not just physical, the damage went much deeper than her skin. Her brain had been changed forever. The Pyromaniac developed an obsession with fire, and of course, being in such a depressed, shocked, and traumatized state, she ended up with a wide range of other mental issues. As she grew older, she ended up traveling between various foster homes in different towns all around Boston, but no one wanted to keep her as she would cause way too much trouble. She'd start fires, get into fights, and just be a general nuisance for most of the day. Eventually, she was moved around less frequently as she learned to get away with her activities, but often she would still end up caught or displaced because of something absolutely insane that she had done. The girl was not an idiot in the sense that she couldn't learn, but her mind had definitely changed and developed in a horrible way. Eventually, at the age of 16, the Pyromaniac was kicked out of her current foster family's house for starting a fire in the local park, and this was one of the last available places that she could stay. She was now homeless, without a family, and without any friends. The Pyromaniac lived on the streets for many years, learning a new range of skills such as making drugs, gaining experience in combat by robbing people with force, and also developing herself physically with training. She was incredibly strong for her size, and her aggression definitely helped her exert force. The Pyromaniac also learnt a lot within the local library, and it was here that she would devise more complex plans. With age, common sense, and also observing more people on the street, the Pyromaniac eventually became quite talented at hiding her obsession with fire and violence. There came a stage where she looked and acted like any sophisticated person on the street, wearing nice, clean clothes and speaking in a civilized way. The Pyromaniac had of course stolen all of her clothing and was still just as crazy as before, but she knew that she'd be living on the street in poor health forever if she didn't do something. The Pyromaniac wanted to leech off someone else. She wanted a family again. It didn't help that she had scars from the house fire and other facial marks that she'd accidentally inflicted in fires that she'd started herself, but she would stop at nothing to survive. Eventually, after months of studying at the library and plenty of practice, the Pyromaniac learned how to forge various documents. With help from some of the connections she had made on the street, it wasn't long before the Pyromaniac fabricated herself a law degree and an entirely new identity. The Pyromaniac was even recorded in the census as a lawyer and lied about her experience entirely. She had gone as far as learning the basics of law and what a lawyer does by reading books at the library to ensure that her cover would never be blown. It was a Thursday night waiting at a local bar when she met a man who would soon become her husband. She told him that she was a lawyer and flirted intensely with him. The two got on suspiciously well, and to the man's surprise, he ended up getting the Pyromaniac pregnant right after they married. This was exactly what she wanted. She had originally told him that she was on a holiday from work and could now tell him that she had quit her job entirely to look after Sean. The Pyromaniac would now have a place to live and someone else's money to spend. Even having a family, the Pyromaniac would definitely make up some fake reasons to leave the house to go start a fire or cause trouble in their suburb. She was never caught, however. The bombs began to fall before she even could be. After hurrying into Vault 111 with her new family, we all know what happens next. As always, remember that on FudgeMuppet we're keeping big quest and faction storylines pretty vague, but we will be explaining the factions this build can work with and why. If you don't want to hear this, then you have been warned. With that out of the way, let's get into the faction choices and perspective of this exceptionally manic build. Entering the wasteland more unstable than ever before, the Pyromaniac is absolutely shocked. She cannot believe that this is the world she once lived in, and she is worried about her son Sean. As crazy and as sociopathic as she is, she does want to find Sean. She simply feels an innate pull to discover where he is and see if he's okay. Spending only days in the Commonwealth, the Pyromaniac couldn't love this new world more. She might not have the safety she once wanted, but now most people don't either, and she can easily carry out her wild tendencies and desires without government intervention. The Pyromaniac will be forced to kill people not long after leaving Vault 111, and she really enjoys doing it, especially getting up close with melee weapons. To her delight, the Pyromaniac soon discovers Molotovs and a flamer, and she uses these weapons to spread fire throughout Boston and kill anyone who messes with her. She will also occasionally kill those who are vulnerable and alone in the Commonwealth, but when she's in populated areas with order, such as Diamond City, she will try to act pretty normal. After killing people with fire, the Pyromaniac is not only addicted to the heat and look of the fire, as well as the death, but also the smell. She finds something so appealing about the seared flesh of humans, and one day her curiosity takes over and she takes a bite. The Pyromaniac will become hooked on the taste of human flesh, and this taste for fresh meat will develop throughout her time in the wasteland. Remember, in a lot of dialogue, you won't sound like a psychopath as you want to keep your habits a secret. That said, feel free to choose your speech options erratically to the point where it makes conversation awkward, and try to be as unpredictable as possible. Be sure to use plenty of threatening speech options too, but again, you only reveal your true self to the face of someone that you're going to burn to death. In regards to factions, the Pyromaniac will be siding with the Institute and will keep her true self a secret to everyone there. Working with the Institute would allow her to conduct inhumane experiments which she would enjoy, and she gets to do all of this in the name of the greater good. The Institute is also hidden away from the rest of the wasteland, so the Pyromaniac can never be found if she needs to lay low. The technology the Institute possesses would also allow her to develop really intense drugs, which she would be very, very fond of. The Pyromaniac is going to crawl into the wasteland with 8 strength, 1 perception, 8 endurance, 1 charisma, 8 intelligence, 1 agility, and 1 luck. You're going to want to get the special book in Sanctuary and put this into endurance, making it 9, and also get all the bobbleheads as soon as you are able to. As usual, our guides on how to get all of these are in the description. 8 strength is going to help us with our melee damage and carry weight, and represents the fact that the Pyromaniac is incredibly strong for her size. Her nervous system is incredibly explosive, and she can move heavy loads quickly with surprising coordination. Unfortunately, being severely damaged by multiple fires has damaged her perception and agility quite a bit, and being caught in a house fire at the age of 6, she's certainly not too lucky. She's also not charismatic at all, but has definitely learned how to speak relatively normally through years of experience dealing with her issues. The Pyromaniac is of course very sturdy and hard to kill, hence 8 endurance, which will give us plenty of health, and she's pretty damn cunning, and that's why she has 8 intelligence. Okay, now let's get some pork in our fork and get into the perks of the Pyromaniac. As we like to do on FudgeMuppet, perks will be explained up to level 50, and then it's all up to you. You can modify these builds in whatever way you like to suit your own playstyle or ideas. So starting off, we're going to be getting a very helpful perk that any melee character will need, and that is Big Leagues. Big Leagues is a great choice to get now as we have high strength and will be able to find melee weapons quickly to use. At the first rank, we'll cause 20% more damage with melee weapons. Melee is a better choice than heavy guns at the moment simply because of our strength. It's not like there's a stat that increases heavy guns damage. Plus, big guns are also less common. After you get the minigun, you can use this, but ammo will be scarce. After getting the first rank of big leagues, we're going to invest in the Chemist perk, and this is fundamental to the build's playstyle. The first rank of Chemist will make any chems you take last 50% longer. This perk goes extremely well with Jet for some slow-mo carnage and hardcore parkour. Remember to use all the chems you can. At level 4, we're becoming more resistant to these drugs with the Chem Resistant perk, and for now, this will make you 50% less likely to get addicted to chems. At level 5, we're getting the first rank of Hacker to access advanced terminals to get into places, retrieve information, and mess around with robots. We think Hacker actually makes a build like this a little bit more creepy. Even if you've locked yourself in a room with a maglock door to hide away, the Pyromaniac will still be able to hack her way in there to cook you alive and eat you. She'll do this with the perk she gets at level 6, which is Cannibal. Cannibal will allow us to eat human corpses to restore health, and each corpse will heal a total of 25 health. This perk is mainly for role-playing, but it can help you out if you're in a super sticky situation, especially on survival mode. Next up is the second rank of big leagues to do 40% more melee damage and also have the chance to disarm our opponent. Following this, we're getting Armorer and then Blacksmith to start customizing our weapons and armor. And then at level 10, we're getting the second rank of Hacker to gain access to expert terminals. Now we'll finally start investing in Heavy Gunner to do 20% more damage with our heavy guns, and then at level 12, we're actually going to invest a perk point into Intelligence. This will help the Pyromaniac level faster to get all the perks he needs quicker, and we wanted to pick this as an early investment to get the most out of it. After this, we're going to get Armorer 2 to improve our armor some more, and then at level 14, we're investing a perk point into Strength. This will give us access to the amazing Rooted perk and will also increase our melee damage. At level 15, we increase this even further with Big Leagues 3. Melee attacks will now do 60% more damage, and they have an even larger chance of disarming your opponents. After this, we get the second rank of Chemist to make your chems last twice as long, and then at level 17, we're finally investing in Rooted. This will give you plus 25 damage resistance and make you deal 25% more melee damage while standing still. I highly suggest you watch our Rooted Is It Worth It video linked in the description so you know how to use this perk very effectively. After this, we're going to get this second rank of Blacksmith to further enhance our melee weaponry, and at level 19, we get the second rank of Cannibal to make this build even freakier. Now the Pyromaniac will be able to gain 25 health from eating super mutant and ghoul corpses. Disgusting. Following this, we make a smart investment and get the Medic perk as enemies start getting tougher and you start taking more damage. Now your Stimpaks will heal 40% of your max health, and Radaway will remove 40% of your potential radiation. Next up is the third rank of Hacker, and we won't be getting any more ranks after this. This rank gives the Pyromaniac access to master level terminals, which means she can hack her way through any terminal in the Commonwealth. After this, we invest in the second rank of Chem Resistant to never become addicted to chems, and then at level 23 we get the second rank of Heavy Gunner to cause 40% more damage with heavy weapons and have improved hipfire accuracy with them. At level 24, we get a really powerful perk rank, the second rank of Rooted. While standing still, the Pyromaniac will now have a plus 50 damage resistance and cause 50% more damage with her melee weapons. This is insanely powerful, and as I said before, I suggest you watch the video we made on Rooted so you know how to use it best. Next up is Adamantium Skeleton, and at the first rank, it reduces limb damage by 30%. We wanted this perk as the Pyromaniac doesn't use power armor and is more vulnerable to breaking limbs, and we've waited till now to pick the perk because there aren't as many threats to your limbs early on. For example, at the start of the game, you're not encountering a raider with a fat man or a missile launcher very often. After improving our defense with this perk, we switch back to our offense and get the fourth rank of Big Leagues. Now we'll deal a massive 80% additional melee attack damage, and we'll be able to slash multiple enemies in one swift swing. This is most useful for longer melee weapons such as the shish kebab as opposed to something like a ripper. Following this, we get Heavy Gunner 3 to have even more hipfire accuracy and cause 60% more damage with our heavy guns, and then at level 29 we get the third and final rank of Blacksmith to do whatever the hell we want with melee weapons in Fallout 4. Now we can fully upgrade all the main weapons that we'll be using. Finally, at level 30, we get the second rank of Medic to restore 60% of our maximum health with Stimpaks and remove 60% of our radiation with Radaway. We then invest in Adamantium Skeleton 2 to have limb damage reduced by 60%, and then we get the third rank of Chemist to make chems we use last 150% longer, and by now you will have noticed the true power of this perk, especially when using Jet. After this, we invest a perk point into the luck stat, and you'll want to get the luck bobblehead if you haven't got it already. And this is because we're getting the first rank of Bloody Mess to deal 5% more damage with all our weapons, and then we're getting the second rank to deal 10% more damage. Bloody Mess causes enemies to occasionally explode into a gory red paste, and this will really add to the cannibalistic madwoman theme of this build. After 2 ranks of Bloody Mess, it's time to get the Endurance bobblehead, and because we used the special book on Endurance, we can invest in the first rank of Solar Powered. Remember that if you don't know where to get these bobbleheads, we have guides in the description. The Solar Powered perk is going to give you +2 strength and +2 endurance during the daylight hours of 6 AM to 6 PM, and this is incredibly useful to have. This will of course increase your health during the day as well as your melee damage and carry weight. The health and melee damage bonus is quite significant, especially on higher levels. We also want a Solar Powered for this build as it tends to fit in with the theme of a fire-based character. At level 37, we're going to be getting the 4th rank of Heavy Gunner to deal 80% more damage with heavy weapons and have a chance to stagger our opponents. This chance to stagger is great for keeping enemies at bay and making them unable to shoot back. Now we will finally be able to max out the Cannibal perk by getting the 3rd rank, and at this rank the Pyromaniac will gain +50 health from all the corpses she eats, and remember these can be humans, super mutants, or ghouls. We then get the 4th and final rank of Armorer so we can take our armor to its final stage, and then at level 40 we get the 3rd rank of Bloody Mess, causing us to inflict 15% more damage with all of our weapons. Looking at the last 10 perks, we're going to be getting the final rank of Adamantium Skeleton to take absolutely no limb damage at all. We thought it was appropriate to pick this now as explosive turrets become more common during later levels, and they definitely do a lot of limb damage. After this we get the final rank of Big Leagues to do double damage with our melee weapons, and now we'll have a chance to cut our target's head off and send it flying, or simply cripple them. It's absolutely sensational stuff. We're then getting the 3rd rank of Rooted, which will give us a chance to disarm enemies who attack us with melee weapons while we're standing still, and then we're getting the 3rd rank of Medic. Now our Stimpaks will restore a huge 80% of our max HP, and Radaway will remove 80% of our max potential radiation. At level 45, the Pyromaniac will be getting the 4th rank of Chemist, and at this last rank her chems will last 200% longer. This is super helpful for the playstyle of this build, as you'll be able to put the game in slow motion for a very, very long time, and of course get the stat, damage, and resistance bonuses from things like Buff Out, Mentats, and Med-X. Remember that you're going to want to create your own chems like Buff Jet and Psycho Buff, as these are incredibly powerful. For example, Psycho Jet makes you deal 25% more damage, have +35 damage resistance, and have +40 action points. And this chem also, of course, slows time for 45 seconds. With all of the ranks of Chemist, these effects stay active for ages, and you can craft these chems yourself quite easily. At level 46, we're getting this 2nd rank of Solar Powered, which will slowly remove your radiation over time. And remember again, while this perk can be useful, we've mainly chosen it for convenience and role-playing. Anything that produces heat gives the Pyromaniac power. We're then finally getting the last rank of Heavy Gunner to do double damage with melee weapons, and after this we're getting the 4th rank of Bloody Mess. Now if we cause an enemy to explode in the standard Bloody Mess fashion, there's a chance that nearby enemies will also suffer the same fate. This adds to the gory nature of this build, and it is of course effective as well. At level 49 we're going to get the final rank of Medic so that Stimpaks restore all of our health and Radaway removes all of our radiation, and at this rank Stimpaks and Radaway will work much faster. This rank will help heaps when you want to play this build on survival mode. Finally, at level 50, we're getting the 3rd and last rank of Solar Powered, allowing us to slowly regenerate health between 6 AM and 6 PM. Now the Pyromaniac build is complete. If you want to make any changes you can, and you'll have to choose the perks yourself from now on. Now let's take a look at the end game special stats, including all the bobbleheads. So at level 50, the Pyromaniac will have 10 strength, 2 perception, 10 endurance, 2 charisma, 10 intelligence, 2 agility, and 3 luck. When it comes to the gear, we're going to explain the armor and weapons in a straightforward manner, but we'll explain the upgrades in terms of early game, mid game, and end game. This of course refers to your level. So looking at the armor, the Pyromaniac will be wearing a full set of metal armor, and as you progress through the game, you're going to want to end up with a mix of heavy and sturdy armor for the best aesthetic. That said, if you want full heavy for the best protection, then you can definitely do that. Underneath this armor, you're going to want to wear the harness, and earlier on in the game, before you get a full set of metal, you can mix metal and raider armor pieces if you like. We also found the synth chest piece to look decent over the harness with metal or raider pieces on the arms and legs at the start of the game. In terms of weapons, this character will have a ripper, a flamer, the shish kebab, and also uses molotovs that she finds. Another big gun that you can use is the unique minigun called the Ash Maker, and this uses incendiary rounds as it causes burning damage with every bullet landed. At the start of the game, you will want to use whatever melee weapons or big guns that you can find, and you will also want to create and pick up as many chems as possible to use in battle and for other purposes, such as leveling faster. So now let's get on to the upgrades. So looking at the early game armor upgrades, you're going to want to get padded on the chest piece to reduce explosives damage, braced on the arms to reduce more melee damage while blocking, and cushioned on the legs to reduce falling damage. This is helpful for all the jumping around that we're going to be doing. In terms of early melee weapons, you'll want to just upgrade whatever you could find until you can get the shish kebab. You will also be able to find a flamer relatively early on, and this requires no perks to customize. This means you can make this weapon quite powerful at a low level. Upgrade the flamer completely, but keep the nozzle as standard because the other nozzles reduce the range. The flamer is meant to be your ranged combat weapon. In regards to mid-game armor upgrades, we're going to want the dense mod on the chest piece to greatly reduce explosives damage, aerodynamic on the arms to make power attacks drain less AP, and custom fitted on the legs to make sprinting cost less AP. This character uses lots of running and sprinting around with the jet chem, so this will help us out a lot. Looking at mid-game weapons, you should be able to get the shish kebab by doing a particular quest. For a video guide we made on how to get this weapon, be sure to check out the link we've put in the description. You'll also want to upgrade the shish kebab to have extra flame jets, which increases energy damage. Also, on a side note, if you find yourself a ripper now, you'll want to keep it. You could get the Ash Maker now too if you want, and we've also got a guide linked in the description on how to get that. With the end game arm upgrades, you'll need to get pneumatic on the chest piece to reduce the magnitude of incoming staggers, and on the arms and legs you'll want the same upgrades as you had for mid game. Obviously, throughout the entire game you'll want to keep upgrading your armor resistance and end up using polished metal. You've actually got all your end game weapons now, but if you're finding things are tough, then you're definitely going to want to put an extended blade on your ripper and use that. This is a fantastic weapon for slicing enemies apart, which you will of course proceed to eat. When it comes to companions, the Pyromaniac is definitely going to be using the super mutant Strong. All the other companion choices aren't too compatible, but Strong is. Strong loves when the Pyromaniac slaughters and eats people, and he also doesn't like it when the player uses power armor, and conveniently, this character doesn't use any. Strong is a very aggressive character, which is great, and he definitely fits in with the destructive theme of this build. After maxing Strong's affinity, you will get the Berserk perk, which makes you do 20% more melee damage if your health falls below 25%. In regards to building settlements, the Pyromaniac could definitely create herself some sort of secluded drug den or human slaughterhouse in the wasteland. You could make a really raider-looking building with flamethrower traps, chemistry stations, and of course, corpses if you want to drag them outside. Remember, you will also have the headquarters of the faction we chose for this build. And that finishes off another Fallout 4 build, the Pyromaniac. If you do like these builds, please do subscribe so you can put a smile on my face, and like the video if you can't wait to play the Pyromaniac. Share this video around if you want everyone to know what kind of messed up stuff you're into. And also, if you're looking for the best in worldwide entertainment, be sure to follow us on Snapchat, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. My name is Scott, this was the Pyromaniac, and I'll see you soon with some more Fallout 4.